Alright, hey gang, welcome back to the Graphic Multiverse. I'm Paul, joined with Angela.
Hi.
And Rob.
Hello there.
How is everybody doing this week?
Pretty good.
Good.
I had a 4-day work week. That's always just great. So
Yes. I have a 4-day work week every week, but it never really feels like it because I do 10-hour days.
yeah.
So the 3 days off is nice, but...
So it's a nightmare.
Your schedule, what you have now, sounded like the dream schedule for me at my old job, because I would work 10 to 12-hour days for 5 days a week and not get paid extra.
Oh,
and
that sucks.
But now my new job is just, I went in, I got there at 8 this morning. I left at 2. Nobody cared.
Yeah.
It was just great.
See, I need that, because I didn't realize, like... So at my job, when I have to work a holiday, a lot of the times, instead of doing a 10-hour, it's like an 8-hour day.
Mm-hmm.
That 2 hours makes a huge difference. Like an 8-hour day flies by for me now. That 2 hours makes a difference.
Yeah, I remember my old job, especially when I was a technician still, I'd be like setting up for events for like anywhere from like 8 to 18 hours. Ugh. And then when it would slow down and I'd work like a 6 or 7 hour shift, I'd be like, I just got here. Wow.
Yeah.
And then I know people who are like making more money than me, and they're like, I only work 7 hours a day every day. What is wrong with you? I'm like, maybe I should get a new job.
She's like, maybe what's wrong with the system?
Yeah.
Yes.
That is bleeding me dry. But anyway, You're not listening to this podcast to talk about work. No, you're here to talk about all things cool and nerdy and pop culturally.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
pop
but if you wanna, overthrow the capitalist pigs, we get it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we'll support you from afar. Social distancing.
We get it. We're millennials. We understand.
Yeah. It's so weird. We were talking about, like, Sega Genesis 90s video games, and then we started recording. Work. It's like, I feel like we gotta reverse that.
I know, yeah. Instead of having a cold open about video games, something people might care about, we're just like, yeah, my old job sucked.
Adventures in adulting. Seriously. But yeah, no, one thing I wish they would do, I'm gonna dive back into video games for a second, is that, like, on my iPhone, there are some actual Sega Genesis games you can get as an app. Like, being able to replay Sonic 1 and Sonic 2 on my phone is a delight. And somehow just as infuriating as it was when I was, like, 9.
Yeah, there's a lot of the games behind me in my collection that as a child I could not beat. And I'm always I should go back and play these. But I've only gone back to play a few, and they're just as hard. Or maybe I'm just, like, worse or something. I don't know.
No. I think I used to be jealous of kids who could just, like, fly through games, and I'd be like, I can't make it past the second goddamn level.
I think that's why I have beat Sonic 2 when I was young, because that's the one I had.
Yeah. The first Sonic, though, there's fucking 3 stages to every level. And if you run out of your lives, you have to go back to the Green Hill Zone. And at that point, you should just fucking kill yourself, because having to do that all over again. So luckily with the app, that didn't happen, but I was, like, fucking determined. I feel like I had to avenge my younger self.
That was definitely the plus when, like... So growing up, I was a Sega kid. I didn't have a Super Nintendo. But
Same here.
Everybody
Sega.
I knew who had a Super Nintendo, and you play Mario World, and you can save your progress. It's big step up.
Like, yeah. But I'll tell you, though, I mean, when... that first Sonic game where, you could die. I mean, it's like real life. I mean, there's no take-backs.
Yeah, you die in Sonic. You die in real life.
it's like,
It's like when you die in a dream.
Yeah.
Or like the Matrix. No, can you imagine, like, there's, like, homicide, like, the detectives come over. Oh yeah, look at the chalk outline. It's just ring circles. Looks like he was playing Sonic and exploded into rings.
But honestly,
Poor
one of the
bastard.
most, like, traumatic video gaming experiences is any of the underwater levels in Sonic. Because like you're like, I gotta find an air bubble. And then it just like dun 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 dun, and then Sonic drowns. And you're like, holy shit.
No, that weird like that like dun 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 dun. Dude, I think that was the origin of my anxiety, because that's what plays in my head when I go, oh god, I'm dying.
Oh god! And then you finally get that air, and it's like, "Gut," and you're like,
Yeah.
thank God. It's like burned in my brain because it's so stressful.
Well, when he would drown, he made
Yeah.
and he just like
He just drips
he'd
down.
sink. Oh,
I'm just like, he
Jesus.
just inhaled water and is dead now.
Yeah, and it's my fault.
I
I'm
know.
a murderer. Fucking drowning animals.
Yeah.
It'd be like in confessional, like, bless me,
Yeah.
Father, for I've sinned. I keep drowning hedgehogs.
It's like, I
Jesus
watched an animal
Christ.
die. It's like, what? It's like, Sonic.
My son, you need a different kind of help. But I mean, I kind of wish they would do more of that. Like, I know they have like Kid Chameleon you can get, you can play as an app, but I want, like, bring them all back, because I'm thinking it can't be that much memory or space. Wherever
It
the
is.
fucking
Those games are very small.
yeah. So
That's one of the reasons I actually got an Android phone, because the App Store and the Google Play Store is just the Wild West. You can just get emulators and all that kind of nonsense.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
Well done. But yeah, no, it's cool. I think I want to see the old games of yore live on. So I was excited when we got that, when they released the first Super Nintendo.
The regular Nintendo.
Regular.
Yeah, I didn't have a
Caucasian
Sega.
Nintendo.
I can't relate because I didn't have a Sega. I had
Yeah.
Nintendo, and we got the Nintendo when the N64 came out because
Oh,
we were
shit.
poor. So
I was always
Ow.
pretty far
so
behind.
I can't relate to your privilege.
Dude, I remember my dad got me a Sega, and it was really cool, and it came with 2 games, and one was Sonic, and then one was like a football game, and the football game was like, how the fuck? I don't know regular football, and the video game 8-bit football didn't make any goddamn sense to me either.
Yeah.
I think it pushed me away from sports.
Do you guys remember the first game you ever beat on your own?
Like as a child,
Yeah.
it never happened.
I
As
don't-
a kid, never happened. It wasn't until I was like an adult.
I think the first game I like rolled credits on was Crash Bandicoot 2 on PlayStation 1.
I remember having Crash Bandicoot, and I actually got really excited when they did the re-release of Crash Bandicoot. They re-released the Crash Bandicoot trilogy. And let me tell you, as a 36, a 35, soon to be 6. Fuck.
A 35,
As
soon to be
someone-
6.
As an adult who's going through a mental breakdown, I have yet to have beat Crash Bandicoot. But I will say I have gone way farther than I did when I was a kid. That fucking wall level is bullshit. That is way fucking hard. And I love when you beat it and you play some levels, and then you're at another goddamn wall. And you're like, what the fuck is this shit? What is with all these walls, Trump? Like, crazy. And then you got those natives guarding these like little 3-foot platforms. It's like, okay, first of all, why are you doing this? Who's gonna make it this far? Why are you up there? How did you get up there? And who's gonna come relieve you?
Well, maybe you should rethink colonialism.
Yeah. But I love when they re-release games like that, and they kind of spruce them up, it's better graphics.
Well, and I think getting through just Super Mario Brothers 3, like, I used to die so many times that I could beat the first world, not just the first level, but the first world in 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Because you had to do it so many times. And playing it
It's
again,
like muscle memory, when to jump and.
Well, and playing it again is just how did I do this? It's so hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those old games.
Nowadays, you just buy stuff. Oh, buy this pack. Buy this power.
I mean, I'm pretty happy that there's accessibility options in games where it's just do you want to play it easy as shit or super hard?
yeah.
And it was I'm more of I start it just normal,
Yes.
and then
Yes.
I
will
never
not-
play hard.
I
Fuck
don't even
that.
look at God mode. I
Listen,
don't even look at it.
Life is already hard. Can I play this level?
Who am I trying to
on a-
impress? Myself?
Yeah, I mean, for real. I know. I will say, though, back to Angela's question, the first game, I just realized the first game that I beat, honest to God, was that Spider-Man game that came out a couple of years ago.
Oh, wow.
That was the first game I beat by myself. And the crazy thing was, I was so sad it was over, because that Spider-Man game is fantastic.
I
It's
really
so
wanna
fun to
play
play.
it.
And when it was over, I'm like, wait, that was the boss? I mean, yeah, it was hard, but whoa, is this what this feels like?
Yeah,
think-
rolling credits on a video game. It's like finishing a good book. You're just
It
like,
is.
oh,
It is.
it's the
Yeah,
best.
Kirby in Dreamland. That was my
Yeah, you
my
love
first
Kirby.
game that I ever beat.
Good stuff. Yeah, but I would love to replay all the games that I couldn't get as a kid. Like, I love to play Maximum Carnage, Spider-Man game, all the comic book stuff.
Speaking of games, what kind of games do you think Loki is playing?
Wow.
We should get on topic. That's true.
Wow. Wow.
Oh,
that
he's
was
playing
good.
games for sure.
Oh, yeah. He's playing games. Yeah, let's dive in today's main topic, the first 2 episodes of Disney Plus's Loki.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
Yeah, we're gonna spoil everything.
Yeah. I'm going to say this. First initial thoughts. I love it. And I love that we have Owen Wilson.
Yes.
He is a fucking delight.
He really is. He's just great.
He's somebody who, yeah, he plays the same part, but he plays it so well, and I don't get sick of it. Like, Mobius could be like the reincarnated dude from the Wedding Crashers and be like, okay, cool. And I wouldn't.
I disagree. I don't think he plays the same character. I think he has the same like cadence in the way that he talks.
Yeah, he has a similar like presence to
But
himself.
he's not the same character. Definitely not the same
No,
character.
I mean, not the same character, but I feel like if that was like a backstory, like, oh, he's reincarnated from Wedding Crashers, I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense to me. But I'm not saying that as a negative, because he's so charming. It's insane.
Mm-hmm.
And I am just so happy that he's in a Marvel project. He's killing it.
He reminds me a lot of, in terms of his acting style, was it Jimmy Stewart?
Interesting.
He reminds me a lot of that.
That is an interesting observation. I
having
never
a
would have
very
thought of that.
similar way of, because I know he talked in that very slow, methodical way to help remember his lines, and it kind of became his like thing, and he became like an American treasure and all that stuff. But I feel like Owen Wilson is very similar in that he has that same like thing that is uniquely him.
Mm-hmm.
But
It's kind of like Jeff Goldblum.
Jeff Goldblum
Yeah, he
is, I
definitely.
think, another
I think
one
it's
like that.
Also,
that
these
has
people
that.
who have very, like, very unique kind of just voices, like,
and just ways
of speaking. It's like you hear Owen
Yeah.
Wilson, you're like, oh, that's Owen Wilson. There's no
Yeah.
mistaking it.
Exactly. So yeah, that's so. Haha.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Pinky's out. I just got a little highbrow on that.
No, that was good.
like,
Although, can you imagine Jimmy Stewart in this as,
No.
like, as like a TVA?
It's like-
Oh, I can't even do
Oh,
him.
wow.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that? I was like,
Yeah.
like yeah.
Oh, you should do your De Niro for Rob.
No, don't.
I'm sorry.
But
Blow me up
I gotta
like
say,
that.
I love the Mobius Loki relationship in this show because it's very like weirdly supportive, and like Owen Wilson, like Mobius is so nice to Loki, while also like being very firm and somewhat serious. But
Yeah.
just like the
I
moment
think-
where he's just like, I'm very smart, and he's like, you are smart. And
Yeah.
you're like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, it's, I feel like it's somebody who, it's unexpected for Loki to kind of challenge his power the way that he is, because I think he, you know, and I love, let's just talk about this first episode. Sorry, I'm like bouncing around, but I love that, you know, it picks up where we last see Loki in Endgame, and this is one of those shows where I was like, how are they going to do this? Because I remember watching Endgame and thinking, oh, are we going to see Loki come back? No, that's it? Okay. But I love... Because a lot of the questions I had, they actually addressed in the first episode. Like about, will Loki know about what happens to him? Like the whole real this is your life scene, I thought was great. It was almost kind of like a therapy session with Mobius, where he's kind of having Loki think about, like, you know, well, what makes Loki tick, you know, and then the realization of, I don't enjoy hurting people. It's how I get the illusion of power, and, you know, and I love that. And the scene of Loki seeing his death, really fucking powerful.
I was just watching his mom.
That too. And then knowing everything, knowing Asgard's gone. I mean,
Yeah.
very well acted.
Yeah, the first episode I was into, just because it's all like super deep nerdy stuff, but I think it was it was like 98% exposition, just kind of setting up everything.
Sure.
Which I am kind of glad they got away in the first episode, because once they go into episode 2, there's way less of that. It's all just kind of like get into the action. But yeah, I thought they did a very good job of setting up the TVA. I loved the the Mrs. Time, or
like Miss Minutes.
Miss Minutes.
Yeah,
I thought that was awesome. Very Jurassic Park, Dino DNA.
Oh yeah,
Which I
and
loved.
it's Tara
I know,
Strong.
Tara Strong. So
That's cool. No, I what I loved about the first episode is that you're right. It's totally exposition and info dump. And maybe I'm biased, but I thought it was sneaky because it didn't feel like exposition. Like, I was like genuinely curious, and I thought, Dino DNA while you're standing in line, kind of explaining everything. I just thought was perfect.
it makes sense, because it's such a far out thing. Like, I love that Marvel's doing these weird, like Falcon and Winter Soldier. Anyone who watches any of the movies easily follow that plot. WandaVision had some weirdness to it, but in the end, I don't think it was actually that weird. This is just fucking weird. Like,
Oh yeah,
like, even if you're super into Marvel stuff, like, I had kind of heard of something similar. I don't even, like, the TVA is pretty much new to me.
Yeah.
I know characters that are like TVA adjacent in the Marvel comics, but that whole thing's new. I'm so into it. I love time travel stuff. I love multiverse stuff. I love Loki.
yeah. Well, what's great about the time thing is that it opens so many doors. So many
time doors.
Yeah. Well, also, I mean, yeah. I am just always taken aback by how well this stuff is done. Like, things that I thought for sure would not work have worked. And it's just so well done. And because the other question I had too is that, I'd always loved Loki. But I loved the Loki that we got at the end of Ragnarok, because there was he had such a great character arc. There was growth. I actually, when Thor is talking to Loki about going back to Earth, and thinking I might not have the greatest reception going back to Earth, but Loki was willing to go. It was like I was kind of curious to see like a more evolved Loki, maybe still being like a thorn in Thor's side, but still being on the same side. So when we kind of go back a couple of steps with Loki, I was like, oh, so we're gonna go back to the mischievous god thing. But it seems like, again, going back to the This Is Your Life tape, I feel like it kind of...
Yeah, I feel like the first episode did a really good job at just kind of like breaking down Loki as a character, and like his vision of who he was and what his like end goals was, which was shattered all within that first episode.
Yeah.
Once he realizes that like everything he'd been trying to do is essentially nothing in the scale of the TVA and stuff like that.
But what's great is that we have a completely new Loki.
Yes.
Like, we don't have that Loki from the original timeline. We have this completely new... He's evolving in a very different way.
He's going on a very different time.
Well, this is
trajectory.
We went from a Loki who was power hungry, wanted to be a ruler and a god, to now working in a cubicle.
Yeah.
Wearing a beige jacket.
Yeah.
Can we just talk about how wonderful the set design for the TVA is?
Yes.
Like that late 50s, early 60s, super uniform, like
even, I would say even a little bit
propaganda.
70s.
I was gonna say
with
it
the orange.
mixes like Art Deco somewhat with like boring 50s bureaucracy.
Yeah, like because it still
Super
has
well.
that like idea, like that propaganda of like the space race that influenced so much architecture during that time. But yeah, you have that bureaucratic conformity that kind of is
And everything
quintessential to that.
is brown and smoky, and it
Yeah,
just feels
and
like there's
orange.
dudes chain smoking and just doing shit in the 50s and like
And
Wonderful.
analog.
yeah, it's like all that weird future or like retro future-ness
Right.
and stuff. Yeah, I love that stuff.
Yeah, no, I was great. I mean, like when, when again, so I keep going back to, This Is Your Life with, Mobius, but I mean, that was on film reel, like I thought that was I don't know. I just yeah. I'm just a sucker for this show. Like it's checking all the boxes.
The details are crazy. The discontinued like drinks
Mm-hmm.
that they like characters are drinking, and the little things that are just it's. Oh, and finding the drawer full of just Infinity Stones.
This
and
literally
how-
like it to me it's like the Doctor Who that I could get into. Because the idea of Doctor Who, and when I hear people talk about
Yes.
Doctor Who, I'm always just like, man, that sounds cool. And then I watch Doctor Who, and I'm like, I can't do it. I just
Right?
can't do it.
Thank you. I'm same. I feel seen.
No, same way. I want to like Doctor Who.
I've tried like a little bit of each of the new modern Doctors, and just like,
Yeah.
I just don't care.
yeah, it has a little bit
I just
too much
don't
of that
care.
weird type of sci-fi fantasy that just doesn't grab me. And I think the fact that this is, for one, it's a Marvel property, so I'm already a sucker. Two, it's Loki, who, I mean, I'd watch Tom Hiddleston just, I don't know, walk down the street for a TV show. Like,
I
Yeah.
would pay to see it too.
but it's also doing the time travel and all the weird interdimensional being people. It's so good.
It is good. Yeah, and I love how I feel like as an audience member too, we're kind of in shock the way that Loki is, because I think the Infinity Stone reveal was kind of huge, because up until now, I mean, there's a reason why we now call that time of the Marvel movies the Infinity Saga. You know, these stones, these
Everything revolved around them.
these MacGuffins carried some serious fucking weight, and then for it to now be like, oh yeah, they're paperweights.
Yeah, they
It's
have literally no power here.
yeah.
it's wild.
Like, it's funny how you go from Loki being like, the receptionist, oh, what's this? It's a Tesseract. You gotta be very careful with it, to Loki just tossing it around like this is nothing.
It loses its glow and the whole shebang.
I do like, too, that they also are able to afford moments where the show asks big questions, like being sentient, self-aware, is there such a thing as destiny? Do we have our own power? The power of belief. Like, we're 2 episodes in, and it's able to kind of accomplish that without it feeling like it's like, look at how smart we are. You know, like it's. I mean, the fact that they were able to have that conversation, and the start of that scenes, they're talking about jet skis.
Yeah.
Great.
But yeah, and I do love how, like, at first it seems like Loki's totally outclassed, like he has no idea what he's doing. But then by like episode 2, like, he's still clever enough to kind of like weasel his way around the TVA, and like he's able to kind of like, I don't know, just mess with them. Like, he escapes in the first episode for a little bit until he gets to the little playback machine, and then has this
Right.
emotional breakdown.
Well, and just figuring out, Pompeii.
Exactly, in episode
and
2, and he actually proves super helpful, like figuring out these clues. And
Yeah.
that was just a cool sequence.
Oh,
though,
that was
when they're
super
in
cool.
Pompeii, and he just is.
I feel like a lot of history nerds would love this show.
I love it.
Loki's fucking, was it DB Cooper?
yeah, that was awesome.
That was like so cool.
Yeah, it's a good time.
I also
It's a
love
good
that
time.
Mobius is basically like blatantly using Loki's ego as a motivator.
Oh yeah.
Like, constantly.
yeah.
He's like, hey, let's have a race. Whoever finds the answer first. And he's clearly just
What
like,
I'm really I'm really interested to find out is the longevity of this show, because I don't know about you guys, but I love when shows or movies try to predict the near future or the not so distant future, because we're going to be around in 2050.
oh, I know.
And it'll be really interesting to be like, okay, is there going to be 8 hurricanes at once? I mean, I think about Demolition Man, when they're like Los Angeles, 1997, and it was like a war
I know.
zone, and it was
Honestly,
other
other than the weird
I mean, they weren't that
hologram
off,
person
but-
in front of the Rocks cart, what was it called? Rocks Mart?
Yeah, Rock's Cart.
Rock's
Rocks
Cart.
Cart, which is basically just a Walmart. Honestly, in 30 years, if stuff doesn't get better, Louisiana probably will be underwater. So, but that whole scene was wild too, just because there's this weird it's pretty dark when you think about it, where there's like the TVA agents that are just like assholes. And Lone's like, hey man, treat them nice. He's just like, they're scared. He's like, whatever, they're all gonna die anyway. It's just like,
Yeah.
geez, all right.
Yeah, I feel like Mobius is the one cog that's like, we can be a little nicer about this. It doesn't have to be so.
Again, another Demolition Man reference, but he is Sandra Bullock in that movie when she's all just like, "Oh, gee golly, I love things from the past," and yeah, she's it's like that. Somebody who has a soft spot for the silliness of it all, I guess.
Well, it was actually kind of funny because it made me think of another Owen Wilson movie, like Midnight in Paris, where he's writing a story about a guy who works at a nostalgic shop. And like how he won't call it like a pawn shop or like an antique shop. It's a nostalgic shop. I'm seeing a connection.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Next thing you know, I'm going to be connecting cars. It's like, oh yeah, it's basically fucking Steve McQueen.
So what did we think about that big reveal?
At the end of episode 2?
Episode 2, yeah.
I kind of expected it at some point. I'm like, I don't think, from the beginning, I was like, I don't think it's going to be Tom Hiddleston.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, like, I was like, the whole time I was just like, it'd be cool if it was Lady Loki. And then when she revealed herself at the end of the episode, I was like, ooh, this will be cool.
And there's a theory going around that might not even be female Loki. That might be the Enchantress. Because, what was it? One of the foreign subtitle credits, it lists her as Sylvia.
Yeah.
Sylvie. But there's also, she might be just a female version. Like Sylvie is just the girl name for Loki, like, I guess, I don't know. It's just kind of, but the fact that she was blonde and she wasn't like this black-haired goth girl with like black nail polish to make you be like, oh, I'm just like a
she was
lady
blonde
version
and she wasn't British, I don't think.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I think that actress is British, but
yeah, I don't know. I kind of wanted,
and she was very much
Lady
differentiating
Loki.
herself from him. Like, don't call me that.
Right.
Yeah,
like,
and it's like, this isn't about you.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of hoping it's because the TVA, clearly there's some weirdness there. It's just like a big bureaucratic thing that's like, clearly the time keepers or time lords or whatever they're called are like, something's probably not, good with them.
They're with Hydra.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, people are like, one of them's Kang the Conqueror, which I would be stoked if they brought him in early because he's been confirmed for Ant-Man. So
the design for one of the time
looks
keepers
just like him.
Just like him.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay.
Yeah.
And I was reading the judge, what's her name? Renslayer, Judge Renslayer, in the comic books is apparently like a Kang love interest.
Yes. Yeah, she's like a princess or something. And like,
dude, the Kang stuff is super complicated because I started reading the Avengers from the 60s, and Kang's story is like, what was Stan Lee and Jack Kirby smoking when they fucking thought of this? It's like, oh, Kang is like Rama Tut. Like, he's like a dude from the future who goes back in time to rule Egypt and then, like, decides, like, I'm just gonna fart around I'm gonna quantum leap the shit out of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm down for that too. But I'm just like, I think Lady Loki, or for lack of a better name at the moment, I think it'd be interesting if she's trying to bring down the TVA, and then, or I think like for like a somewhat good reason, Loki teams up with her. At the end, Owen Wilson gets a jet ski. That's all I want.
Yeah, it's gonna post-credit scene where
I'm excited to see what Loki, our new Loki.
Yeah.
Well, what the plan is to cause all of the divergent. I mean, there's definitely no question that this is setting up
the multiverse of madness, because they used the term madness several times in the first episode to be like, oh, if it strays too far past, it just goes into madness.
Well, and they talked about, sorry.
Oh, go.
No, they were talking about the Nexus, and that now we know that Wanda is a Nexus being. Yeah. So
well, and they also talked about there being like multiversal wars, like actual war breaks out, which maybe they'll like be in the multiverse of madness, and maybe even Spider-Man: No Way Home, because that's supposed to incorporate different timelines. So who knows? Maybe Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, and Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. That'd be kind of cool if that was like a little trilogy.
Yeah, it seems like it could be.
It's like a crossover, like in the comics, like to be continued in. Spider-Man 25.
But, like, what do you think the end goal is for basically time bombing the sacred timeline. Like, because they basically, if the timekeepers know the future and they're clearly trying to keep it going towards one direction. It's like, I wonder if that version of Loki comes from one of the snipped timelines or something like that. So they're trying to kind of like how Tony Stark was just like, he's like, I'll make it go back to the way it was, but it's just like, we can't go back as my daughter and stuff's here like that. It's just like, there's all these divergent paths things can take, and then maybe the timekeepers were just like, this one's not good, snip, and that Loki was somehow able to sneak through and be like, fuck that.
Well, what's interesting, too, is that because Loki brings up a good point in the first episode where he asks, oh, like, what about the Avengers? Like, because Loki knew that the future selves were back in time, and
messing with stuff.
Yeah, and she says, no, that was supposed to happen. And Loki's like, what? So that's interesting that gets a pass from the timekeepers. I don't know if we'll get more on that, but I thought, do you remember that when we heard that? We both looked at each other. We're like, ooh, interesting.
Like, they did what they were supposed to do.
Yeah.
Who did the exiles work for in the comics?
Oh, man, the Exiles. That is a good question. That was like... That had, like, Blink, right, from Age of Apocalypse on the team, and Morph. Not cartoon Morph, but...
They worked for somebody named the Time Broker. Because I remember I used to read that all the time, and that was just because, for one, I liked the X-Men.
Yep.
Two, the first issue I read was that alternate universe, and the cover was just like Iron Man and Doctor Doom's cloak, and I was like, that's the coolest looking cover ever. But I just liked the Elseworlds and stuff like that. But yeah, that's another kind of like time hoppy type thing, which was super fun. Also, somebody pointed out online that episode aired on 6/16 or 6/16. So maybe the sacred timeline is the 6/16, and then they're diverging, which would be the second reference because they mentioned the 6/16 multiverse or whatever in Spider-Man 2.
So I'm really eager to see where this goes.
Me too. I'm so into it. Owen Wilson's great. Tom Hiddleston's great. Miss Minutes is great. I love that she came back in this one as just like a hologram, and he's like, "Are you alive or a recording?" And she's like, "I'm kind of both."
Yeah.
It's also fascinating. I'm just really interested to see where they go from here.
Yeah, and too, I was just trying to do some speed reading just to see if there's any like theories about, what Loki's overall plan is.
Well, it seems like now Loki, at least like Loki Prime or the Loki we're familiar with, once he realizes that like, he's like, oh, Infinity Stones and that bullshit, that's nothing. He's just like, this is where the real power is.
Right.
So maybe his kind of plan is to try to, at least at first, kind of get whatever the TVA's power is. But
yeah,
I don't know. My favorite Loki, like you were saying, I like when he's doing mischief, but it's like mischief you can root for.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's the kind of like the beauty of Loki, right? Is that you can just he's like the bad guy that you're okay rooting for.
Exactly, because I guess in Avengers 1 he was kind of being a dick. It's hard to root for him, but as he like kind of matures throughout the MCU, yeah, you definitely, especially by like Ragnarok and stuff like that, and in Infinity War when he basically sacrifices himself unintentionally, but still he was like.
Yeah, because if you think about it, I mean, Loki could have very well made it so that Thanos didn't get the stone. Mm-hmm. He could have easily have just let Thor die and be like, yeah, I don't have it. That was destroyed on Asgard. I don't know. I'd be kind of curious to see if his plan somehow, I don't know, creates a multiverse, and that's how we get like the that Watcher miniseries that's coming out, all of the different what ifs.
Oh yeah, I'm super excited for the what if.
So it'd be kind of cool to. I mean, it's Marvel. I mean, at this point.
Hey everybody, it's Rob here, jumping in to let you know that unfortunately we had a little bit of audio recording issue on Paul's end, and we did not realize until we were done recording. So the episode is unfortunately cut short, But hopefully you got enough of our Loki discussion to kind of get a taste for what we're feeling about the series. And tune in next week, because I think we're talking about Sailor Moon.